Hello and welcome to this continuing first look exploring session looking at the weakest goeth to the wall. And we have as of yet not really quite decided how the title really connects with any of the sort of logic of the play yet, especially as obviously there's an early modern interpretation of the term. There's a slightly more modern interpretation of how the term should be used. At the moment, we're sort of lingering more on the pulling your enemies against the wall and our firing squad side, but that's probably not actually where the author's intending. But we don't know because we haven't really join the dots yet. I'm sure someone will say it in passing. It'll be at the very end of the play, like the importance of being earnest, and someone will go, it's vitally important to remember the weakest goeth to the wall, and everyone goes, and we'll figure it all out. But we haven't found that out, so keep an eye out for walls. We're waiting for one to turn up. Reading through this play so far, of which tonally we have no idea where to place it yet. We don't know what its genre is. We're fascinated by it. We're slightly fearful also. There may be some problematic elements coming up. Content warning possibilities of people being coerced into sexual favours against their will, and possible horrible violence, but maybe not. We genuinely don't know. Reading today, Shamont and Hugo is...
Hello, my name's Lynn Freitas. I'm coming to you from the northwestern United States.
Reading Yacob and Villiers is...
Aliki, Chapple, actor and translator based in northwestern England.
Reading Lodowick today is...
Briony, Sparrow, actor in Lincolnshire.
Reading Odillia and First Soldier is...
Lois Potter, retired academic living in London.
Reading Bunch today is...
Hi, I'm Eric, and I feel like the author of this the author of this play. I need more coffee before I can make a decision what's going
on. Reading Emanuell and Epernoun is...
It's Alan, based in Suffolk in the UK.
Reading Frederick and Second Soldier today is...
Rachael, actor on the East Coast.
Reading Diana and Hernando is...
Hi, my name's Elizabeth Amisu, and I'm an author based in Romford.
Reading Oriana is...
Hi, I'm Valentina. I am an Italian actor and voiceover artist in London.
And finally joining us today for the first time, be gentle everyone, reading Nicholas and Mercury is...
Hi everyone, my name is Cheynne and I'm from California.
And I'm your host, Robert Crighton. I'll be reading stage directions and trying to keep us moving all forward. We've just had a scene of the sort of romance plotline with a chap who we'll probably keep referring to as Frederick, but at the moment everyone calls him Ferdinand. But we're skipping that. We're going forward to scene 7. Where we have hiding away in somewhere in Holland or similar. We have Lodowick, who's escaped from France and the terrible things that are happening there, and his effective landlord at the moment, Yacob. So enter Yacob and Lodowick. Yacob have a long board chalked.
Come. Flaux, betal, geld, Lodowick, geld. Ware bene de franke krone? De rikse dollar? The English skilling, huh? For pay, battle. Kijk door Lodowick. Zie de krete de chokke in 2, 3, 4 gulden for brandwin, 50 gulden for roast ze eat, 7 gulden for spek, kasse, butter and banket, Kijk, look in die bers beetle shellem beetle, ik mot gelp heb come, pay!
My gentle host, have patience but a while. I will endeavour to come out of debt as speedily as God shall give me means, forbearing neither lessons nor acquits, one groat of duty, only your good mind shall be approved for respiting a time.
Respite? Rest devil! God's curse, but my geld ik ken niet forbear. Niet suffer, niet spare mijn geld, 1,000 devils. Ik moet de brewer, de baker, de butcher betaal. So, hebben je niet geld? Give me a pawn and a gauge. Oh, here that is Frau might meet my leven for the debt.
Yacob, alas, thou seest what wealth I have. Apparel, jewels, plate, and gold I lack. Fortune hath racked me on extremity, for all my riches are within thy house. My virtuous wife and daughter are my treasure, which above all world's wealth beside I measure.
God's sacrament, harma charle beggar, a wench. Loop deselve, ye shall niet slap and not marry in mine house. Give me the Frau in the misken, wife and daughter to pledge for my geld. For ik weet wel, thou wilt redeem and ransom them twee. Lopedo shall neemt the geld and coin here and buy out thy wife and kinder, thy schone daughter.
Alas, what comfort is there left for me if those dear jewels be impawned to thee? My wife and daughter? Jacob, change thy mind. Divide us not. Oh, be not so unkind.
God's Heineken, unkind, but Bora give me gelta, or pona, or ik fall in the vagabond starven.
No remedy? We'll call my wife and daughter. If they content to be engaged to thee, I'll leave them. Else thou shalt imprison me.
Ha! God's getostimot ikkel de skåne fra his wife, hier hold, ik dagger nit kost, nit silver, nit gold.
Enter Oriana, Diana, and Bunch.
Dora she kamen, Dora, all so klare, white and sol as the zon. Welcome to the life. Hey, courage, mein van, all's gedaan.
And Lodowick looks sadly, Yacob merrily.
What planet's opposition have we here that makes the storm in sunshine, heat in frost? The heavens are clouded, drossy earth is clear. My husband frowns, but frolic is mine host. O fire and ice, O fear and doubt together, what envious star directs my coming hither?
No heavier star nor more malevolent needs Lodowick than this Flemish excrement. Dear Oriana, thou dost know our state, cast down, spurned, scorned by fortune and by fate. Yet never grief so nearly galls my heart as when I think that thou and I must part.
Why must we part?
Ask Jacob, he can tell.
Well, Meister, Frau, ik moet de gelb heb, je man hebt niet to battle. He zal niet langer in my house blijven, kijk door de score. Ik wil hem trust neer, maar ik moet in gage. In a pawn, heb dat must you fella benne, and you schone daughter by the good Morky, he fall to prison, to the Vanga portals.
Well then, I must persuade her patience to be thy pawn, thy prisoner in mine absence.
What? Our pawn? Our prisoner? For what? For the score? Pox on that chalk. It's an easier matter to chalk a pound than to get a penny to pay it. You shall not go, nor she shall not lie to gauge for a little money. Let me see. How much is it? What be these guilderns?
Lodowick whispers with Oriana and Diana. I think we'll just briefly pause there to just get a sense of what's going on here. I think we're, it's very clear that Lodowick's, whatever he left the house with before fleeing the country, hasn't gone very far, and his host is demanding rent, and it's sort of going where we thought it might be going there in terms of it's thoughts of the room. I'm not articulating this at the moment. Aliki.
Okay, it's not clear to me whether he's keeping them in as a security so that Lodowick can't run away, if he's taking payment in kind in sexual favors, or if he intends to pimp them out. none of these possibilities are very appealing, but it's not clear that which one is happening, not to me anyway.
Yeah, I mean, it wasn't. There didn't seem to be anything explicitly stated, except I will keep them here. You go away. Is the all we're sort of getting so far, Lynn?
Yeah, my impression was that he's ostensibly, as far as Lodowick is as far as he's leading Lodowick to believe, is that they are security for the unpaid bill, but he's already expressed sexual interest in Oriana, so it's like, you go find the money and leave your family here as kind of as a promise, as security for the money that you owe me, and once the man is out of the picture and can't defend his family anymore, he's going to try to have his way with the wife and maybe the daughter too. So
I should point out, for the viewers at home, we're only halfway through the scene. There is still more to be resolved, but I thought I'd just see if we get a bit of clarity as to how far the play has actually taken us thus far, especially considering that Yacob is not the easiest to pass, especially if you're just listening to it from a distance. And we're reading it at the same time as well, so we really have all the fun. Any other thoughts before we move on further into the scene? No,
well, no,
okay.
I can just warn Aliki that some of those F's are actually S's in your part, just to make it even easier to read.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah.
Yes.
I won't be able to tell which ones. I spotted one because it was early on, but I'll keep an eye out. Thanks.
Yeah, it's the script has had a couple of passes, but let's just say that I think some of us possibly lost the will to live when it came to trying to passing Yacob stuff. So apologies. I doubt it will make it any less or more comprehensible. So let us continue. Lodowick whispers with Oriana and Diana, whereas Yacob and Bunch are now going to exchange some pleasantries as well.
Ja, Aliki Gilda.
50 and 4 and 7 is 5 and 40. Mass, I have put 20 stivers toward it. That's all I've saved since I came here to Newkirk. This Flanders is too thrifty a country, for here the women will heal their husbands' house themselves. Faith, if your score had been but a score of stivers, I mean, I would have paid it, cleared the chalk clean.
Zwegen en drinken punch, de skone vrouw, en voor dochter, volbin mijn ton, mijn gage, mijn de vrouw, dou de maske.
Say you so? No, Butterbox, I'll set a spoke in your cart here. This soul fat smelt tells me that he has smelt out a small commodity for a pawn. That is to have your wife and daughter to gauge. If ye be wise, make your bargain that you do not use your pawn. For though it will not be much the worse for the wearing, yet 'tis pity he should be slubbered by such a cullen as Yacob smelt.
Prithee be quiet. Yacob, I will leave my dearest, most unvalued jewels here. Entreat them well as thou wilt answer me. At my return, even with thy dearest blood, if they miscarry in thy custody. Friend Bunch, farewell. Be kind unto these twain, and if I live, I'll recompense thy pain.
Faith is kind as Cobra, and I'll break my heart to do them good, but whither will you go?
I know not yet where fortune shall direct. Leave us a while to take a sad farewell. That done, I part, and they shall stay with you.
Wel, hij mijn skone vriester, mijn life, thou vol met me bleven, en die mannequin away loop. Hey, laustek.
Yeah, we see how the slovenly smelt leaps. I think you could be content to be rid of this beer fly, this big and faith butterbox a while.
Indeed I could.
Indeed, and you shall. Yacob, I have news for you. Passing profitable, pleasurable news. There's a ton of English Stark beer, and you come to Newkirk this day. Add 2 stivers of stoup. Come, I'll give thee a stoup or 2.
Oh, gramercies, Bunch, brave Bunch, mijn liever broer, English beer. Oh, here a toasty god stands away again.
Oh, well, parting in the morning is past remedy at midnight. God be with you, sir. I could weep, but my tears will not pleasure you. If I see no more till I see you again, God hide ye in his kitchen. As for you two, I shall see you left in pledge till I have drunk to you. And you pledged me 20 times. Once more, adieu.
And exeunt Yacob and Bunch.
Ah, beastly, brutal, baser than dung, that has no touch nor feeling of my want, that such a drunken, greasy slave discards. Oh, Oriana, never till this hour did I confess my want or misery, for but of thee and my poor sweet Diana. I never made account that aught was mine, but poorer now than poverty itself. Of all I had, you only were the best. Now must I too forego you with the rest.
Oh, must we part? Whither wilt thou go? Oh, my dear lord, yet whilst we lived together, with what content have we endured our woe? Now, like a sea-tossed navy in a storm, must we be served unto divers shores? Oh, that the poorest beggars that do breathe should yet have that which is denied to us, but to have partners in their misery.
Good father, since our fortune is to beg, let me become the beggar for you both. What shall become of me if you do leave me? Many will give me bread if I do ask, but there is none that can give me a father.
Ah, my poor wench, if I should stay with you, this gripple miser, this uncivil wretch, will, for this little that I am indebted, unchristianly imprison you and me, where we shall surely perish then for want. But I will cross the narrow seas for England to London, where ere long I make no doubt to get so much as shall redeem you hence, and shall redeem this poor estate of ours, till fairer fortune hap to show her head.
Farewell, farewell. Now all my joy doth go. Go you alone, while we alone with woe.
Farewell, dear father.
My sweet girl, adieu. He bless us all that keeps both me and you.
And exit Lodowick, enter Yacob and Bunch, to Oriana and Diana, who are still on stage.
Come to here, Bunch, thou beest in a right shapt Charlie. Oh, the stark English bear. Who argin, Frau, and the skåne daughter? Kijk door Bunch, neemt de mesklin, vol de moor hebben. Come, Oriana. O bene, meine gage voor geld, meine liver love, meine zuterkin.
Your footerkin, your drunken skin, mistress, how do ye? Is your husband gone? Why, be of good cheer, here's a bunch of butchers left to comfort you. Take all in my purse, spend all that I get, and command my work to help ye out of debt.
Thanks, gentle friend, but how shall I requite thee?
Tush, talk not of quittance. I'll live by a pittance. So unline my purse and use my person, and for my limbs take the best in the bunch.
God sacrament, Bunch, Sveg, come, Frau, the man is away again. Let us be frolic, lustig, hey, spell, zing, and dance. Ik love meine liverkin, hey, ik basse meine zutte leesse ho, ik moet niet slapen, niet drinken, sanne, stompe don't, mine lolike vrouw, hey, lustig.
Wilt please ye, mother, leave this barbarous beast and take you to your chamber?
Aye, my child.
And they be going out.
I'll tell thee, Smelt, thou shouldst be a God's head, thou art so rude. I'm of the house of the bunches. A bunch of keys will jingle, a bunch of lace will ring, a bunch of roots are windy meat. And a bunch of garlic will make you sweat, yet I keep no stir.
Shall I make bigare nit differs ben again?
Then let us follow, we shall o'ertake them anon.
And they exit. Okay, there's a few things here I want to just question. I mean, There's lots of stuff here. I mean, yes, we're leading into the stereotype of the time that the Dutch are very into beer and getting drunk. So when Bunch says, "Oh, I know of some beer that's coming in. I'll use that to pay my rent," that immediately appeals to Yacob there. It also plays into the earlier thing about Bunch just going, "The thing he missed about England was the beer. Oh, look, a ship of beer has arrived! Yay! I'm saved." I'm hoping that Bunch hasn't gone over to the dark side at the end. I'm hoping that he's offering the money just because he's nice and he's the clown. I really hope that's what he's happening there. I don't know, because it's a bit ambiguous what's going on in that exchange, but I really hope Bunch is just being nice, because I don't want Bunch to go to the dark side. Please don't do that, Bunch. Please. Lynn.
That never even occurred to me that he wasn't sincere, Rob. Now you've ruined my day. You've ruined my morning.
I have to ask the question. You could tell me I'm wrong. It's fine.
I hope you're wrong. I hope you're sorry.
I am. Because we love Bunch.
Bunch is the real hero. He's like, oh, I would pay your debt if I had just a little more money, but boy, they're cheap here. They do their own mending, and I haven't gotten that much work. Like he seems right. He seems like a good guy.
Yeah. I like the way he sort of sits there going, I'll just check the tally on the board. It's this question of, if he had half a chance, he'd be wiping things off and writing in new figures and, just checking the conversion rates on things. I'm liking that. Other thoughts from the room, cheerful or sad? Entirely up to you. Anyone who... I do like the way that Diana or Oriana at the end just go, shall we leave them? Yes, we shall. We are not getting involved with this time. Rachael, then Alan.
I think even without the Dutch, I would be very confused because I don't understand how Lodowick has shown up in this, this plot line and how he knows these people. Did they meet briefly in one of the other scenes?
Bunch met Lodowick in when he was being shafted, as it were, and then Bunch and him are discovered in Flanders. So Lodowick and Bunch had met each other at that earlier in the play. There was a connection, a very very brief one, and but they had passed each other, so it wasn't completely illogical that they on the run, because of course Bunch doesn't want to hang around in France either because of invasion and death. Bad for trade. Though oddly enough, I feel that Bunch should actually be one of Mother Courage's caravan. It was the first thought yesterday actually when all the war started to go coming in. I was going, oh, can I make a profit? Can I make a profit? I was sort of expecting that. He didn't go that way. I was quite pleased. Because, doesn't go well for those who... Spoilers for Mother Courage there. Doesn't go well. Alan, then Valentina.
Yeah, I just wanted to apologise to Aliki because I did one of the early pass edits on this. And I looked at the dialect and thought, no, I'm not touching it.
Fair enough, Alan.
Well, most of the transcription is correct in terms of how it was originally printed. But I say the usual failure is F's to S's. But otherwise, I think most of the rest of it is as it went out. I did have a quick scan through to see if there was anything egregiously wrong, but it seemed moderately accurate. Valentina.
I'm going to do an Elizabeth now and say that there's very few female characters, and the characters that are there a little bit soppy.
Yeah. Because we've had these and they haven't said a lot, and we had I quite liked elements of Odillia the other day, but that was very much in high romance soppiness. But it was also playing someone at the game of romance soppiness, so I don't know how sincere it actually was or how much it genuinely reflected their character. But yeah. Not a lot to do. Yes. Who's next? Yes, and then Elizabeth.
Yeah, sorry. Do we know how old Diana is?
We don't have an accurate age, no. But that's producer's choice to a degree, I suppose. Lois.
No, she sounds quite young.
Sorry. Lois, then Elizabeth. Sorry.
Oh, right. Yeah, no, she sounds quite young. I mean, when children start saying things like, let me do the begging for the family and so on, they must be very young. And she doesn't talk about her virginal state.
Elizabeth.
Yeah, I wanted to just congratulate Aliki because I think that some of that faux, I'm not sure, I want this as part of my comment actually, how much of what Aliki was saying was supposed to be Dutch or Flemish or a pidgin language, with mixed with some English. I think Aliki just was a trooper. She really gave it a lot of oomph, and I found it quite funny, which I'm not sure if I was supposed to. And then I wanted just to defer to the group to just kind of ask how much of that did people understand? Because I couldn't understand hardly any of it.
Right.
Okay, let's go with didn't understand any of it. Hands up. Somewhere in the middle. Hands up. And thoroughly understood everything.
Liars.
Rachel's cat's waving. Yes. Sorry, other thoughts from the room? I did see lots of hands. Valentina.
Sorry on that. I just wanted to note that we've kind of lost all of the reason why that is there. As in, when it first started, at least there were some kind of double entendres and some kind of incomprehension with the other characters. But now they just seem to understand him perfectly. So
maybe it's just supposed to be an indicator of accent rather than yeah, and it's just we're the ones struggling with it because of time and minor textual errors and just the absence of rehearsal and stuff. Rachael, then Briony, then Lois, then Alan, then we will move on.
I mean, there's I don't know if it put all together makes legit Dutch, but there's a lot of the things where he starts going about hoorzin, I mean, there's play on the English, I think, word for whore, but also to hear. At least in German, it's that way. That when I was taught German, that you have to be careful with the umlauted O versus the unumlauted, just because you're saying two very different things. So I think it's one of I think it's what we have sometimes when we have Latin, where you're really playing up the language game, the dirty language game.
Briony.
Yeah, I don't know, but I got the impression that Bunch understood it a little bit more than Lodowick. Maybe Lodowick was nodding on and yes, but not quite getting all of it, and then Bunch was filling him in a bit, but I don't know.
Lois.
Yeah, I suppose Bunch has been there longer, and also I think he just knows what sort of guy Yacob is, and has picked up enough of what he's been saying about the wife and daughter to know this is not good. Yeah, I mean, I can more or less get what he's talking about, I think, though it would help if one didn't keep running into F's where S's ought to be. I mean, there are quite a few kind of key words that are coming out like that. I think it's just kind of a nasty foreigner thing. This must be a particularly anti-Dutch phase in English culture.
Yes, we do ebb in and out of it. I think we had one sort of 20 years earlier in some of the plays we were looking at. It was very acute, and then it sort of dips out, and then it comes back in or something like that. Yeah, we were discussing last time about the sort of general question about what this play is doing with that and how it's functioning, because obviously he's not a very nice character. I think we drifted away from the dialogue is supposed to be inherently funny per se, that we're supposed to be laughing at the accent per se, but that's not an absolute either. So I think there's still quite a few open questions about how it functions overall, because of course, in a sense, we're not supposed to really like anyone to a large degree. We have very few sympathetic characters. We only just sort of introduced a few that we did. Alan, then Eric.
Yeah, I must admit, I'm looking at this and thinking, well, Bunch is the main comic in the company. Yacob is the second string comic. And the English theatre has always thrived on, oh, well, let's take the piss out of foreigners.
But I don't know that anything structurally he's doing is designed to get a laugh. I mean, that's the thing, that just because it's written in a phonetic-y kind of way doesn't mean that it's automatically designed. There's got to be a joke there, and I haven't found one in what he's actually saying. Eric?
I was actually wondering what they've been doing off stage, because they disappear. He goes, okay, let's go drinking, and then they come back sort of like he decides to. I'm just wondering how he has money left over from drinking, because how much have they had to drink and how much has he had? Yeah, no, it's just fast.
Well, he got 20 stivers, and it was 2 stivers a pop of beer.
Yeah.
So they've gone through probably gone through a reasonable amount of ale.
Yeah. Yeah. It's just kind of because he kind of goes, okay, here, this is what's left over. He gives it to Oriana, it seems, and then, yeah. I don't know. Does he sort of take Yacob off to sort of keep drinking?
Yeah, it doesn't make a lot of sense, because his main reason for taking him off drinking is just to get him out of there so the 2 women can have a bit of peace, but then they hardly have any, and then he just spends money getting the other guy drunk and then comes back and gives them what's left. It doesn't hang together particularly well. One thing that puzzles me is that the Dutch are very unattractively portrayed. The Spaniards are horrible. I mean, this was a period of war between Spain and Holland, and normally there's sympathy for Holland. I don't know if this is perhaps if he's Flemish, he might be a Catholic rather than a Protestant. I don't know if that would make a difference.
Rachael, and then we will definitely move on. We will. It will happen. Another scene will be read.
Also, I know in the original there's the F to S thing that's coming from the original, but sometimes when we have French, the changes sometimes in some of the words of the spelling that they were using back then versus modern spelling, and I wonder if we have some of that with the Dutch too, perhaps, maybe.
Okay, these are mostly editorial questions that we can discuss separately. And if you pick anything else up, do pop it in the chat. Anyway, we're going to move on. I promised we would, and we will. He's barely been off stage, but once again we have appearance. Enter Lodowick, fainting.
Imperious fortune, when thou dost begin to show thine anger, how implacable and how remorseless are thy bitter checks. To loss of honour, danger of my life, to the endangering of my life, thou addest a separation twixt my wife and me. To that base poverty, to that contempt, and now thou takest from me my strength of limbs, enfeebling me for lack of sustenance. All this thou givest me of thine own accord. One thing let me entreat thee to restore, which with my tears I beg, though thou wouldst send death to fill up the measure of thy spite, that it may be sufficient, thou hast forced my heart to sigh, my hands to beat my breast, my feet to travel, and my eyes to weep. Enjoin not now my tongue to ask an alms. But thou art deaf, and I must either beg or starve for food to comfort me withal. And lo, in happy time here cometh one.
Enter Sir Nicholas, reading very earnestly on a letter.
Where I may make a trial of my skill, a man, it seems, belonging to the church, I have some knowledge in the Latin tongue. Perhaps for that he'll sooner pity me. Assiste gressus, queafo reverende pater, et oculos flecte tuos in miserum, respis spretum, respis precor egenem.
What's this?
O miser paupertatis mea, respis spretum, respis precor egenem.
It seems that thou art needy, and wouldst beg an alms of me. Is that thy speaking speak?
Ita dominita nam vehementer.
Tuts of figs in, vehemiter quotha. There's a word indeed to beg withal. It is enough to bring thee to the stocks. This is no university, no school, but a poor village, and I promise thee I never could abide this Romish tongue. 'Tis harsh, and I will thee true. Do eat and drink in our plain mother phrase. If thou dost want, and wouldst have part with us, then do as we do like an honest man. Show thy true meaning in familiar terms.
I am, good sir, if please you, much distressed, having nor money, friends, nor meat to eat. If it may stand with your humanity to give me some relief, I'll pray for you, and whilst I live, be thankful for the same.
Why so now I understand thy meaning. Is not this better far than respice, and precor, and such inkhorn terms, as are intolerable in a commonwealth? Conjurers do not use them, and thou knowest that they are held flat felons by the law. Be sure thou mightest have begged till thou were hoarse, and talked until thy tongue had that cramp, before thou wouldst have been regarded once. It is not good to be fantastical or scrupulous in such a case as this, but to the purpose. Thou art poor, thou sayest?
Exceeding poor, poorer than Iris. He did enjoy the quiet of the mind, although his body were exposed to want, but I in body and in mind am vexed.
I fear by keeping riot is company, or some such misdemeanor.
Then I wish that God may turn your heart from pitying me.
Well, thou sayest well. Thou hast an honest face, and art beside a pretty handsome fellow. Methinks thou couldst now want a service long, if thou wouldst be contented to take pains.
Oh, sir, the world is grown so full of doubts, or rather so confounded with self-love, as if a poor man beg, they straight condemn him, and say he is an idle vagabond. Or if he ask a service, or to work, they straightway are suspicious of his truth, so that however they will find excuse, that he shall still continue miserable. And 'tis as common as 'tis true withal, the weakest ever go unto the wall.
By my faith thou sayest true, the more is the pity.
But if you will vouchsafe, because my state is very bare, and I am here unknown, to be a means to help me to some place where I may serve, my pains I do not doubt shall prove my poverty no counterfeit.
Faith, I must tell thee, I have little coin. My benefice doth bring me in no more. But we'll hold bare buckle and thong together, and now and then to play a game at bowls, or drink a pot of ale amongst good fellows. And for my parishioners, they are husbandmen, nor do I know any lacks a servant. But this, the sexton of our church is dead, and we do lack an honest, painful man, can make a grave and keep our clock in frame, and now and then to toll a passing bell. If thou art willing to be employed, I can befriend thee.
Oh, with all my heart, and think me treble happy by the office.
Thy wages is not great, not much above, 2 crowns a quarter, but thy avails will help. As first the making of a grave's groat, then ringing of the bell at every burial, 2 pence a knell, which likewise is a groat. And now and then the masters of our parish, as good men Philo and Bartholomew Pitchfork, will bid thee home to dine and sup with them. Beside thou hast a house to dwell in rent free, and for the liking and I have in thee, thou shalt be somewhat better too for me. The grazing of a pig within the churchyard, or when I gather up my tithes and egg, a good hog's pudding or a piece of souse, and what man 'tis? Good fare in country house. Come follow me. I'll see thee placed forthwith.
I thank you, sir. When all things run awry, true labour must not be thought slavery.
And exit. So, right, we seem to be in England. We've somehow got to England, and Lodowick is forced to beg, and he sees some guy holding a book, so he assumes that, best talk to him in Latin, because he's obviously learned, which actually really annoys Sir Nicholas, who just goes, "Excuse me, I think you'll find we don't have any papist activity here. We're good Protestants, we are." And then they get into a general discussion about how awful it is. There's no social safety net for anyone, and the weakest ever go onto the wall. Boom, boom! We got the title in, folks. Huzzah! Okay, quite a few things to throw in there. Let's go to Aliki first.
I want to know how he afforded the boat passage, and boat tickets are expensive. I also want to know how he knows such excellent English when his Dutch is terrible. That's about it.
Power of theatre. I mean, the play hasn't been that fussed about how he got here. I mean, the play hasn't really properly actually told us he's actually in England. I mean, there isn't really... Nobody goes, England's cold this time, or something, just to say he's definitely there. Because I was thinking, he's probably in France, or something. Maybe he's headed there, or tries luck, because then at least they'd be speaking French, and that would all make sense. Who else? Alan, then Lois.
No, he did say in the previous scene he was going to England.
Yeah, but
the
it's still, even so, a bit more lampshading.
Yeah.
Lois.
Well, Sir Nicholas tells us that this guy is the parish priest or whatever. And
we
so
only get that in the stage directions. He doesn't say it straight off.
Yeah.
Does he say his name at all?
Isn't he called Nick at some point?
I called him in the chat.
Maybe that was it.
Yeah.
But it's interesting. I mean, I had no idea what the salary was for the sexton, and it's pretty good actually, as far as I can see. I mean, you get a house with it after all, and people often invite you to dinner, and then you get various fees for making a grave and ringing the bell and so on. That's quite interesting. I mean, I've never seen that sort of detail before.
Yeah, it looks like a good deal. Your house to dwell in rent-free, plus all the eating you can get. Elizabeth.
Yeah, I just wanted to second what Lois just said. I was very kind of taken aback by the detail, the financial detail with which Sir Nicholas talks about the sexton's wages. And I was also thinking about this play and money, because money's been a key factor in the economic, ideals around the characters and the state of the nation in general have been like big factors in lots of plays that we've done. But in this one, money's kind of like ephemeral. This is the first time that I feel like it's become concrete. It's usually something that just like I mentioned Mary Thought before, and I'll mention him again, something that just will happen when it needs to. And when the plot needs it to go away, they won't have any. And that kind of thing.
Yeah, Lodowick, obviously starts off as a, landed gentry with lots and lots of cash, and then he's on the run and he's got ready cash, but he burns through that really quickly. And now he's here and he's a beggar, and he has to get a normal job, a sexton no less. We've had a few stage sextons, and they're not always happy about their lot, especially if they're really well educated. They really hate being a sexton if they're really well educated. In one of the Parnassus plays, and also we get lots of action of sextons, lots of sexton action. Everyone likes a bit of sexton. Lois, then Eric.
Yeah, well, just a point about money. I mean, we have in fact seen the chalkboard that Yacob has put the whole amount that Lodowick owes him on it. That's one of the unintelligible bits we were rattling off, was his list of all the expenses and what they came to. So I think Lodowick's family, at any rate, is sort of surrounded by financial concerns. And I mean, there's been so much reference to money, and then we subtract this and what's left. We were trying to work out what was left after Bunch had paid for the beer. I mean, the other plot appears to be one in which money is totally irrelevant, but this plot is one in which it's terribly crucial.
And never the twain perhaps shall meet. We shall see. Eric.
Yeah, I don't know. There's a part of me going kind of, this is the easiest job interview ever, because it's like you turn up and it's like, hey, well, if you want to work, I can, yeah, we have a thing. But yeah, it's kind of, I don't know. There's a part of me going, he's bewailing his fate for leaving his daughters and so on, and his daughter and his wife. But then, like, I mean, he left them voluntarily. He didn't quite like. It's not like he kind of had to.
Well, he did have to, really.
Well, yeah, he didn't have a lot of choice.
Yeah, but I mean, why not bring them along? Or is that just sort of?
Well, if he did a moonlight flit, you know, he could have done if he wasn't on some level honest. You know, I suppose, because he did owe money to someone who's a little bit dodgy. Valentina.
Like, thinking about the question of time in this play, because it moves so fast, but sometimes it doesn't really tell you how much time has passed between the scenes. And I was thinking about that yesterday when we went from Mercury invading Lodowick's town, and then he gets a telegram, like he gets a message and going like, "Oh, the Spanish are here," and then next scene he's meeting the Spanish, and I was like, "Wait, like, did you not travel? Like, where are these people?" But yeah, it's like it's so condensed that sometimes it's just a little bit like, how much time has passed? Like, the mention of time is not really there that much.
Yeah, and we've got. Oh yes, Cheynne.
Sorry, quick question. Who wrote this play?
Nobody knows, but lots of people are suggested. Lots and lots of people are suggested.
So is this one of those types? Is this kind of like the Arden of Fabersham, where maybe there were multiple people working on this, known figures?
Yeah, a lot of known names are suggested. It does seem to be that it's possibly a collaborative effort. That would maybe make a lot of sense for the way it's flowing between some.
Can we drop some names, possibly?
No, not at this stage. Maybe at the end, but there's a lot of competing names, and it really depends on what mood you're in the morning. I'm not a huge fan of a lot of the thoughts.
Is there a character that you, because Yacob is very like, there's a certain play and there's a certain character. Maybe at the end I can reveal that he seems very like much like, in my opinion, or maybe a more revved up version of this character.
Maybe if we've got time, we'll play this game on Friday. But yeah, Alan, then Rachael.
I just wonder whether it's a sort of ensemble piece that's evolved through a group of actors. We've got this bit we could do, there's that bit we can do. You're good at doing silly foreign accents. You're good at doing the English comedy routine. Whether it evolved through that route. I
wouldn't be surprised if the actors pitched to writers, do this kind of shtick for me. Yes, but in the sense that there aren't set pieces in the same way that this play isn't delivering set piece comedy action that is completely disconnected with the plot. Each scene is moving the plot forward. It's moving the plot forward incredibly quickly, so it's much more narratively driven. It's just whether all of the narrative threads all tie together. Even though, because we still have the outlier, which is potentially the primary plot, which we have to deal with in a moment, which we'll return to in just a second. Rachael, and then we're moving on.
I was going to say a bit of the same of what Alan just said, that it, because this last scene that we just did seems like it could be like a Monty Python sketch where a guy's begging and then all of a sudden he's like, "Do you want a job?" And, like they start filling out a whole contract, and he pulls a table out of nowhere. Because like, if this was like a series of, I guess, kind of like sketches, like one of their movies, some of the questions that I think we have of time and how it condensed it seems and how fast paced this is might be resolved, because then you just have that, the settings a little less important than the joke that's being made in the moment.
Yeah, I do particularly like in this scene that just the moment, the sexton of our church is dead. So, hey, we haven't advertised because, it's only just happened. Anyone would do. How about you? You seem honest. You seem like an honest, kind of desperate person. Maybe we should have offered worse terms of service. Maybe the terms are all a lie and it's going to be an awful job. Anyway, we need to move on. Scene 9. We have a number of short scenes. I will play by ear whether we stop and start between scenes or whether I just let a few flow under the bridge and then stop. So scene 9. Enter Frederick, who thinks his name is Ferdinand, and Odillia.
If you be able to endure the way till we have passed Brabant, we will on. But madame, if you hardly brook your travel, we'll take the right-hand way into the forest, where we will shroud us secretly till night.
Let us not stay near to my father's court. Not for a world I would not hazard thee. No world could save, if taken thou shouldst be. Methinks 'tis long before the sun arise.
Ah, it is long, Odillia, of thine eyes, who slumbering still imagines it is night, and that the shining is his sister's light.
No, 'tis the moon, sweet Ferdinand, I see, keeps back her brother still to look on thee.
I marvel not, poor light, if she decline, when my Odillia doth so early shine.
Come, come, sweet love. Oh, I am full of fear. Be I the moon, thine arm must be my sphere.
Were I heaven, thou ever shouldst shine there.
And vomit. Exit. Scene 10. Enter Emanuell and Shamont.
Oh, misery, why didst thou bait my fall with these descending shadows of my good?
Ay, Lord, ne'er stand upon these vain exclaims, but by pursuit seek to redress your wrongs. 'Tis speedy expedition must recover what light belief and oversight hath lost.
Horses, I say, let horses be sent forth. No Christian prince that treads on Europe's mould, I think that will so far engage his honour as entertain this damned fugitive. Horses, I say, spur through every coast, put on the wings of speedy expedition in the pursuit of my Odillia. Deafen the very air with your exclaims, and fill each province with the ceaseless bruit. Ring out this famous wrong in your pursuit.
Come, come, my lord, incessant speed must post. Words cannot get what you have vainly lost.
And exit. Translation there are from Shamont of stop talking, let's get on with it. You say you're going after this guy. You just stop talking to the audience and follow me. So we've got the pursued and the pursuers in short order. I'm curious. Didn't Emanuell have a completely different servant character in the previous scene?
Whose name began with L.
Yeah, and who we never see again, I know, Leonatius. So I'm just wondering whether I just allied these two people. I'm just wondering why we need two entirely separate characters to do basically telling the master to do some stuff. Alan.
I'm not sure that this is that theory works, because if you read the dramatis personae, Shamont is another French noble. He's the Earl of Shamont. Whereas the L guy that we had yesterday was lower status. I think we're talking about a conversation between effectively equals here. Emanuell and Shamont are on the same sort of rung of the nobility.
Yeah, I don't think structurally it makes a huge. I'm still talking about, why did you choose to have two entirely separate characters whose only function is to feed this guy some lines? Why would you do that, author? Why did you do that? Anyway, Frederick and Odillia, any thoughts on them? Someone defend them. Go on. Someone must have thought they were sweet. Aliki, then Elizabeth.
I did. I think they're sweet. They're young. They're in love. They're extravagant. They say ridiculous things. Come on.
Elizabeth.
I agree with Aliki. I thought they were sweet. I think the play itself is kind of like picking up pace again with these shorter scenes. And then the love story just feels a little bit shoehorned in. It's kind of like what the real main event is: the war and the battles and the consternation of Lodowick and his, Oriana and Diana left behind. And this love affair is kind of like, feels like kind of shoehorned in.
Yeah, and it's weird because it was set up in the prologue as the story, and then 5 scenes passed, and then oh, that's the story again. I'd forgotten about the story, and then lots of scenes pass, and once again we're so it is weird, isn't it? I mean, I'm sure it will all come together shortly. I'm sure it will. I bet it will. Better.
It's super sappy.
Yeah. Rachael.
I can't remember what it was that we were doing, but they were in a forest and I think some other like pastoral farce thing. And are we beginning to tread that farcical territory, or is it just sketch? Because I think there's a great joke there of, you know, the introduction of these people as if they're going to be the main characters, and they show up, like say 2 lines and then run out, you know, and it's not about them at all. And there's so many people and it's going so fast now. Like it's sprinting, like it was sprinting before, but now it's like kicked it up to the like Olympic level.
Yeah. Eric.
Well, we had the sort of what's it called? Hymen's Triumph and Queen's Arcadia, so I think it's kind of, we could easily just borrow some speeches here and there and just sort of go, well, maybe this is not quite as sweet and saccharine as we think it is, because I mean they haven't been allowed to be together.
Yes, if you want some actually quite good stuff on love, I can recommend some of the opening stuff in Hymen's Triumph, which we read the other day. And it's just some really, really nice thing. More about heartbreak, because the person they're in love with is supposedly dead, so it's quite sad. But there's some really, really nice stuff. Really recommend, actually. So if you're looking for stuff about love, then that's a nice one that's immediate to my mind. We've done lots of good love stuff, I'm sure. Anyway, any more on those 2 short scenes? They were short, they were snappy, and they bridge a gap before we run straight back to scene 11 and Yacob, Oriana, and Diana.
Oh, Herrgott, meine Liebchen, where will ye from me gain?
Farewell, mine host. We are for England bound, out of your debt, for you are satisfied.
Ja, you have well battled.
So leave I you to seek my husband out, whom your uncivil usage forced hence. Your imperfections, Yacob, are extreme. Excess in diet, kindled fire of lust, the smoke whereof unkindly chased away my loving husband, whom I must pursue. We owe you nothing, not so much as love, since for your lust we have abused us all. Oh, since for your lust you have abused us all. We have not fallen, though want did wrestle hard. Our fingers' ends our honours have sustained. Flanders farewell, irksome without my lord, and Newark for his sake be thou aboard.
Are you well, ye Frau? Can ye where to find you man?
I trust at London.
Oh, that'll be easy.
Mother, please you go. The air's infected where this glutton breathes, that makes us pilgrims without devotion. Amend thy manners, or let all refuse to host with thee, that wouldst thy guests abuse.
Exit Oriana, Diana, remains Yacob.
Adieu, skåne mesken. Adieu, zoet vrouw. Ik will myself starven up de Gallego bobbentouw. Ik zal de doodstone met this meager love.
Enter Bunch.
Zweg, Yacob, zweg. Here comes Bunch, the boy.
Now, mine host Rob, what empty can, beer, sucker, gudgeon, smelt, I should say. Have the women paid ye?
Ja, all to mall.
All to mall, drunken cannibal, and where be they, I pray you?
Bunch, Bunch, they have been away lopt. They will not longer meet me blaven.
Blaven, ye blockhead, no. Thou art such a drunken goat that the devil will not dwell with thee except he be in thy coat. And whither are they gone, beer barrel?
Ec wait not, for England, for Volondres, they said.
How, for England? For London. Oh, St. Catherine's Dock, and leave me behind them, Yacob, that dost thou not mock?
Knight, for where?
For where, drunkard? Thou hast for London even now.
Yeah, for Londres. Tis where, tis true.
Then, gentle swillball, I'll bid Flanders adieu. Oh, pitiless parcels of women's flesh, I that knew London is my country, and for all my goodwill would not call me to their company. Well, Bunch will not ban them, nor yet follow them, nor yet tarry here, but take up my tools, my pressing iron and shears, my needle and thimble, and back again for France to learn more we and we do. And so farewell, Yacob, with your great maul. Adieu, mine host lick spigot, at the sign of the slipper. When you meet with the cat, for my sake, whip her.
Oh, Bunch, mine heart is gebroke. Ik mot niet lang leven. Come met mij at parting, ik vol de twee stops van beren geven.
And exit Yacob, hopefully never to be seen. Okay, I got a little confused in some of what Oriana was saying, because it seemed at one line it was saying you have got your way, and another line would then say but you didn't, and it was sort of like it was I don't know whether it was made more explicit in other people's dialogues or not, because it felt weirdly ambiguous as to precisely how that went. Aliki.
Yeah, I'm going to go with he didn't get his way. It's tricky. My impression of what she said, and it's the only place I got it, is we have not fallen, though one did wrestle hard. I think he laid hands on them. I think he bullied them. But in the end, they earned their pay with sewing. Their fingers' ends. That's how I got it.
Yeah, I mean, there's the problem that there's parts of that going, well, that could be a double entendre or something there, and fingers ends might actually be that they just slapped him in the face rather than sewing as well. You know, there's so much in there where I'm sort of going, I'm not quite sure actually where bits of that are going. I mean, frankly, if we're going to save any semblance of a comedy arc through this play, which is very difficult considering how many people have died, this plotline has to be that they fought Yacob off until they got their papers for England. But yeah, it's very oddly written in that way. Valentina, I think, was waving, and then Lynn, then Lois. No, from Valentina. Lynn.
Okay, I'll go. I think Lois was first, but yeah, it just seems to me now that the whole little subplot of Yacob lusting after Lodowick's wife is so unnecessary. You know, they end up in England. That's going to be important, I think. So you could put the brief sojourn in Flanders, but like it doesn't really serve any structural purpose. It's just to make Yacob and the Dutch or the Belgians or whoever he's supposed to be look bad.
I think it is starting to really the playing devil's advocate is not really possible anymore. I do feel that does seem to be the sole function of this little episode. Is just
leaves a bad taste in my mouth.
Yeah. Lois, then Elizabeth, then Cheynne, then Eric.
Yeah, I think this is just the tribulations of a nobleman who's fallen in the world, which is a favorite plot. And usually they do have a wife and daughter who suffer with them. I mean, it's very like The Blind Beggar of Bethnal Green, if you've read that one. Or I don't know.
Not yet to have that. So no spoilers. No spoilers.
Got a treat in store, right? Well,
or have we done Bethnal Green or have we done the other one? There are two blind beggars. I forget which one we've done.
Yeah,
Alexandria.
No, we haven't done Bethnal Green yet, so no spoilers on that.
Right. Anyway, they're very fond of that particular plot. Aristocrats who are slumming it, and just about everybody turns out to be an aristocrat if they've got any kind of moral character. I just think that in terms of the genre of this play, that Yacob simply can't have raped the wife and daughter. I mean, that would completely change the whole character of it. This has got to be suffering noble woman and daughter who nevertheless come through it by sheer moral courage and so on.
Yeah, if only there was a bucket of water scene or something, some action that they more obviously did as part to make these scenes feel like they were doing something rather than Yacob being a bit lechy and then them leaving the room. Elizabeth, I think was next.
Yeah,
Yes, mate.
I just wanted to say that I just thought it was interesting how Lodowick doesn't come back and save them. You know, I was thinking, how are Diana and Oriana going to get out of this mess? You know, they're kind of stuck there with Yacob, but they kind of saved themselves, which I really like.
Yeah, I mean, yes, the implication there is that they've paid their own debts and got the hell on with it, and they're just off. And you know, Bunch is slightly annoyed that they left him behind because, you know, guys, I told you where I came from. You've not been paying attention. This is my entire raison d'être as a character. Cheynne.
Going back to something what Lynn said, she was talking about that she felt that the lust between, or Yacob was lusting. Is he lusting Oriana? Is that who he's lusting after?
Yeah, primarily.
I know it seems like it's sort of just jammed in there, but maybe, you know, this could be a reach. But maybe we need to parallel the relationship between Yacob and Oriana and Frederick and Odillia, if we are to sort of focus on the concept of like lust. You know, how lust can be presented in two opposite spectrums, if that makes any sense.
Ooh, yes. Is there a compare and contrast logic which might try and tie that together? Whether the author succeeds or not, but yeah, that's a thought. Eric, then Lynn.
I was going to say also kind of, I guess, sort of not necessarily the lechery part, but the actual sort of inducing someone to sexual favors for rent would have been, well, maybe not acceptable, but like sort of, I feel like it would have been standard during a war or in a situation where the economy was fluctuating and not sort of stable. I mean, not that it's logical in this context, but like, yeah, I don't know. Also, I was just wondering what the whole thing with when you meet with the cat for my sake, whip her line was, but I don't know if I want to know.
Yeah, yes. I think that question actually about, you know, this kind of abuse of using your position as a landlord over your tenants. That, I mean, there is an interesting theme and idea that could be played there, but in a sense, the play doesn't do anything with it, which makes it just sort of unpleasant rather than, you know, a plot to follow. Lynn.
Yeah, I like Shane's idea of this is Oriana and Frederick are doing it right. They're the ideal, and then this is the opposite of the ideal. But I don't know if that was a planned contrast, but now that he points it out, it's hard not to see it. But when I was thinking, you know, after Rob said something about, was there like, I don't know, a business with a bucket of water or something, you know, it wouldn't have been that hard to redeem this episode by having Yacob see the error of his ways in the end. Comic characters do that all the time. In romance, bad guys say, that was wrong of me, I'm going to do better. Yeah, so you could have Yacob go, yeah, I shouldn't have done that. You guys go. Yeah, I'll try not to be such an asshole from now on. But he's just like, oh, my little girlfriend that I wanted, but wasn't really my girlfriend, is leaving, and now I'm sad. So we just like, there's no redemption or learning or like any kind of upward arc.
He is coming across just as a type to be a bit unpleasant, isn't he? Lois.
Yeah, I mean, there's also no real reason why he couldn't perfectly well have taken their money and then raped them if that was what he was after. I mean, it's rather odd that he should be so scrupulous about, oh, you paid me the money, okay, you can go. And they even suggest that they're just leaving because they can't stand him. I mean, that otherwise they might have stayed. But I think the whole thing is, you know, relatively, absolutely unbelievable anyway.
Rachael, then Eric, then we'll move on.
Yeah, what everybody's saying about this scene of him as landlord and them as tenants, I've heard of people like when they're actually going to, you know, visit apartments and things like that, that they'll bring a guy with them just so that, you know, especially if they feel that somebody's iffy, or male landlords, when they know there's only a woman that lives there who doesn't give the 24 hours, you know, the sexist abuse of a landlord and tenant relationship that's still an issue for people in real life. and the what do you call it? The not street harassment, but like the trying to corner women alone in that when Lodowick or kind of leaves, there's an exacerbation of Yacob's behavior.
Yeah, I mean, there are, this is a very live social problem today. In fact, it's been getting worse because of the various squeezes on sensible social housing and the power of landlords and just squeezing the cost of living. So if these scenes were doing more with this, we would going, okay, this is something we can actually say as real currency. But it's the fact the scenes don't do anything with that is what's frustrating here. Eric.
Yeah, I was thinking maybe it's kind of like the equivalent of, master of the house kind of thing, where it's kind of like, I'll just do anything to sort of, if you can't pay rent with money, there are other ways. But I don't know.
Right, anyway, it's a lot of discussion today. It's a very enlivened room. I like to see it. It's lovely. Scene 12. Enter Ferdinand, as he's calling himself, but we know deep down is Frederick. And Odillia.
Thus far, sweet lady, safely are we scaped, and hardly shall they overtake us now, though every way pursuit do follow us. Be cheerful then, Odillia. Love is guide, who swears that fortune shall us not divide.
Dear Ferdinand, I neither fear nor doubt. Peril is but a bugbear for a child. My heart is firm and fortified with love. Witness this desperate tender of mine honor into thy hands, which thou hast yet preserved.
And will preserve it whilst I draw this breath, and bring it sacred to our nuptial bed.
Then, Ferdinand, belike ye mean to wed?
Mean not you so?
Yes, but with whom?
Madame, I trust with me.
Well mayst thou trust. I'll marry none but thee. I know thy bringing up, though not thy birth. Thou art derived from Adam, formed of earth. From that first parent all descended are. Then who begot or bare thee, that's not my care. Thou stolest my heart, I stole with thee thus far. Love wrought our joy, lack shall not make us jar.
Oh, happy accents of a heavenly tongue.
Let's journey on, we tarry here too long.
But they're interrupted by the arrival of someone from the B plot to the A plot. Enter Bunch.
Alas, who is this?
Faith, one that will do you no wrong.
Peasant thou canst not.
No, sir, ye are deceived. I'm no peasant. I'm but Bunch, the butcher. Peasants be ploughmen. I'm an artificial.
Oh, simple and pleasant this poor fellow seems. Question him further, Ferdinand.
I will. My friend, where are we?
Cannot you tell?
No.
Then you had no wit. Are we not here, I pray?
We are here indeed, but say what country's this?
Nay, you asked me not that before, nor I cannot tell you now.
Whither go you, my friend?
'Tis true indeed, your friend and Barnaby Bunch. I'm going to France.
And can you speak French?
Aye, sir, I would be sorry else.
And enter somebody else from the other plot. Enter Lodowick like a sexton.
D'où viens-vous?
I never lived so far. I cannot tell you that. I'm but a stranger in the country. Here comes one perchance can tell you.
I pray you, sir, what territory is this?
Part of the base country of France it is. The village name is Ards in Picardy.
What entertainment can the town afford to travelers?
Too mean for such as you.
Inhabit you this village?
Aye, forsooth. Why gazest thou upon me so, my friend?
Jacob's staff and tumbles fiddle, because I'll spouse you with a riddle. 2 he's, 2 she's by night fled touch, and light upon a Hannikin Dutch. Yacob builded a new kirk, with his chalk writ such a quirk that wife and child were left alone. The score is paid, and they are gone.
Let this alone, friend, till another time. My skill is small in riddles or in rhyme. Be silent, Bunch, till we be rid of these.
You seem a man belonging to the church, and we have church work to be finished. In plainest terms, we would be married. Accomplish our desire for recompense.
I blush not at my calling, gentlemen. The sexton's place of ards I now profess. If that fair damsel do consent with you, I'll call the vicar to conjoin ye straight.
Call him, good friend, for my consent is past.
Nay, but call him quickly, for you see she's in haste.
Master, Sir Nicholas, here's a commodity, a marriage that must quickly be dispatched.
Enter Sir Nicholas.
Gramercy, Sexton, this was featly watched. Welcome, fresh gallants, to the town of Ards. A pretty couple, youthful as the spring, sweet as its May morning. Do you desire to be knit together?
In holy marriage, sir, would we be joined?
In holy wedlock, gentle, so I mean. Ye are in the state of grace, twins in affection, turtles in true love. I know ye have no license. And 'tis no matter, holy matrimony shall pass my liberty without examining. You'll pay me.
Aye.
Come, I'll glue ye together by and by to the lawful bed, to the lawful bed. Fie on this fornication, this lascivious lust, and yet the fresh pricks of my holy self now and then. Come follow me. I'll call some more witness and clap it up presently.
Okay. Exeunt Ferdinand, Odillia, and Nicholas. Lodowick and Bunch remain, who have been whispering all this time.
But are my wife and daughter gone indeed for London, and have paid the debt we ought?
By my shears, and that's a shaving oath, they are gone for London. They have paid Yacob, but shall lose their labour because you are not in England.
But I will send, or I will soon be there. I must not live divided from my joy.
And yet I think you live well by the signs of sextonship. Lord, do you not pray that the pipe may catch the people, that you may earn many groats for making graves? Your churchwardens find bell ropes, and you hands to shake 'em.
Thou'rt a mad fellow. But how knewest thou me in this disguise?
Taught well enough, but hark, the vicar calls.
Come, Bunch, we'll find more time to talk anon.
And they exit. Okay, so we're not in England, we're in France. He didn't make it to England, which I think is quite important to somehow make clear in that earlier scene, because that's quite important that he's not in England, because his wife and daughter go to England looking for him, and he's not there because he's in France. But luckily Bunch didn't go to England, so Bunch is in France and tells him that his wife, etc., are in England. And luckily, of course, we've got a nearby priest so that Frederick and Odillia can get married, which is cool. And there's a sort of nice moment when they go, "Oh, we didn't have the talk, did we? You're into marriage, yes, good." And Nicholas. That wonderful moment of going, yes, sex, and then move on. So yeah. Who's in the room? I'll go to Briony, then Lynn, then Aliki, then Eric.
Yeah, I feel like if you're disguised as a priest in France, it's maybe not the best thing for your disguise to say when someone says, "Where are we?" "Oh, we're in this crap old France." Yeah, this is the name of the place. That might have given him away a little bit, because normally these early modern disguises are completely infallible, aren't they? So.
Oh.
Yeah, there's nothing like it. Someone saying in the play, "How new is me in this disguise?" I'm in an early modern play. Surely you should not have recognised me at all. I put on a hood, and therefore I'm totally invisible. Lynn, then Aliki, then Eric, then Lois.
So I mean, this makes the previous scene with Nicholas and Lodowick make a little more sense when Nicholas says, "We don't go in for that fancy schmancy Latin, speak the vernacular," which is French, and Lodowick is French.
Yes.
So they speak different versions of that, I'm sure, but so that makes a little more sense. But why didn't he go to England like he said he was going to? And why does this French church have a really Protestant feel about it? Because like we don't do Latin here.
I mean, there are parts, but you know, and again, also we don't know when this is set because this isn't really set anywhen. So
it's sort of out of time. Yeah. I was really quite confused there for a bit.
Yeah, I mean, I think just Lodowick's just unlucky they haven't built the Channel Tunnel yet. I mean, it's obviously that's why there aren't, you know, the options of getting across. Aliki.
So the reason that Lodowick is in this mess in the first place was that France was too full of war and he fled France, which is whatever. But I think we do now with the priest sex joke we've landed solidly in comedy. We've got to be in comedy now.
Yeah, it's like we passed that hump earlier, and now it's feeling like the tone does seem to be lifting a bit, doesn't it? It's like someone's decided, shall we just avoid killing people and maybe do some gags? Yeah, Eric, then Lois.
I was just going to say that I quite enjoyed the sort of, where are we? Well, I mean, if you don't know, then I don't know, but I mean, we're here. Kind of, if you don't know that we're here, you must be a bit daft. Also, I think the whole disguise thing is kind of that thing of children and fools, maybe knowing a bit more than your average Joe. I don't know, maybe.
Lois.
Yeah, one thing about it, I don't think he's saying base France. I think he's saying Basse France, perhaps. Or although, yeah, as Alan's just pointed out in the chat, Picardy isn't actually northern France, but it's just south of the Belgian border. So I don't know. It could be somehow lower France, or I don't know. But I don't think he just wouldn't say base France. It doesn't make any sense at that point. I think the other thing, I was trying to figure out how Sir Nicholas fits in with Picardy or indeed anywhere else, but I think he represents clergy in the bad old days when they didn't know any Latin because they were in fact, uneducated, and it is pre-Reformation. He could well be Catholic, but whatever he is, he's totally ignorant and just a sort of hail good fellow. And this is Merry England with all the ambivalence they feel about that.
Okay, more questions. Some answers, but then more questions. So, hey, that's what this play keeps delivering. Let's go to scene 13 with some of our most favourite cheerful characters who we haven't seen for quite a long time since they were recklessly murdering people in various war crimes. Scene 13, enter Hernando, Don Hugo, and Mercury disguise. So Mercury is the Duke of Anjou, in disguise, in private conference with Hernando with soldiers.
I like thy words, and though I reck not much, the death of any private man in France, because in multitudes consists our glory, yet to make known how we do cherish such as will in any sort revolt to us, kill Epernoun, as thou hast undertaken, and thy reward shall be a ton of gold.
Hernando, I will do it. Not so much for money, as for zeal I bear to Spain, though I confess the principal reason that urgeth me, being a French man born, so to forget the love of my country claims is the unsufferable wrongs I bear, the wrongs that Epernoun hath done to me, and in that point I hold it no disgrace, to malice him that first dishonored me.
Why, true, thy reason is substantial, for say a father do forget to show the love by nature he doth owe his son. In my opinion, 'tis no sin at all, if such a son cast off the awful duty which to his father otherwise were due. In all things just proportion must be kept. If the king care not for the Commonwealth, why should the Commonwealth respect the king? But to the purpose, how wilt thou contrive the manner of his death?
Why, as I told your grace in this day's parley twixt that French and you, whilst you are busy, I'll insert myself amongst the soldier of the aged earl, and gathering near his person suddenly, thus send me poniard to his hateful breast.
Stay his arm.
What didst thou mean to wound our general?
Silence, Don Hugo. No such matter, man. He is a villain and will use him so.
I am indifferent. Had I spilt his blood, it was my coming but prevented thus. Now Epernoun shall be the mark I aim at. For when I vow those who have slain them both, had them exceedingly good. How now, my lord? Misconfer not. I meant your grace no hurt, though mine enkindled fury when I thought of Epernoun made me draw forth my poniard. It was to show how resolute I am.
I know it was. Found we parley then. that Epernoun may know we are in place, where conference was appointed to be had, and as they march, fall thou in ring with them.
Enter Epernoun, carried in his chair, and soldiers marching.
Now, cripple, what your legs refuse to do, I know your hands will presently perform. I mean, deliver me the crown of France.
Raise me a little, fellows, in my chair. Hernando, what sayest thou? Deliver thee the crown of France? Why, straggling Spaniard, what makes thee overween thy valour so? Think'st thou, because I seem a withered tree, that I'm sapless quite? No, Duke, there lives within this ravelled front some sparks of fire, which if thou touch will fly into thy face, nor do thou condemn me for mine age. This eye is not so dim, but I perceive the marks of arrogance upon thy brow. Aye, and that for frown I can return thee frown. What glory not so much upon thy strength? The day hath been this body which thou seest, now falling to the earth, but for these props, hath made as tall a soldier as yourself, tosser within his saddle, and this hand, now shaking with the palsy, cast the beaver of my proud foe, until he did forget what ground he stood upon. Go to, go to! The crown of France delivered to thy hand? Good king, how is thy dignity blasphemed? But do thy worst. I am his substitute, and though I cannot strike, yet with a beck can I raise up more fists about thine ears than thou hast hairs upon thy tawny scalp.
Am I reviled and baffled to my face, and by dotard, one but for his tongue, in whom there is no difference twixt himself, a mere anathemy, a lack of length, and the pale image of a bloodless ghost? Yet doth he look as big as Hercules, and would be thought to have a voice like thunder. Well, Epernoun, there is a privilege, that babes may speak their pleasure without check. Else quickly should my sword break off this parley, and with a fillet fend thee to thy grave.
Calls me back. Never shall be said, but Epernoun will show himself a man, and whilst the breath in his nostrils prove a real substance and maintain the right of Louis, King of France, even by dint of sword. Lend me your hands, I'll challenge him the fight. Twit me with babe? Lend me your hands, I say.
Ah, good my lord, presume not, you are weak.
Weak, knave, thou liest.
Get him a standing stool, and then perhaps the child will learn to go.
Yet child again. Alack, it will not be. My heart is good enough, but tyrant age benumbs those instruments with which my heart should execute the office of a knight. Medina, thou must thank the rigorous hands of strength decaying age. These legs of mine, had they not proved rebels to my mind ere this, I would have taught thee to usurp upon our confines. But what they omit, here are both arms and legs to see performed.
Sarah, stand back. Knowest thou what manners is, to press so near the person of our general?
Lay hands upon the villain.
Huh?
No?
Wait a minute. No. Oh, what about Mercury? I am a soldier.
Pardon.
Sorry. I am a soldier, wherefore may I not?
Shall every common soldier at a time when serious matters are determined on betwixt both armies impudently thrust into the secrets of his prince? Stand back.
Now lay hands upon the villain. See within his fist a naked poignard.
Now, countrymen, what unexpected mutiny is that?
A plague upon it! Don Hugo, he's discovered.
Some treason, as it seems, my noble lord. This base companion, since you first began to sit in parley, hath at sundry times saucily presumed to undermine your talk, and being reprehended for the same, we found this dagger hid within his sleeve.
Doubtless he meant to murder me. Now, God be thanked, I escaped his hands.
List Epernoun. He is a man of mine. Touch not a hair of him, least for that hair. I send 100,000 of your souls to dwell in darkness.
Now, a man of thine? Unless I be deceived, I know that face. It is the traitor Mercury, disguised.
Mercury, my foe? Had I but known so much, I would have made him sure enough ere this. But Epernoun, mark what I say to thee. If thou wilt redeliver to my hands that struggling duke, as I am gentleman and true to Spain, I will depart your land.
Deliver him? Not for the wealth of Spain, nor for the treasure you do yearly bag from both the Indies. But Medina, say, what reason moved thee term the Duke thy man? And wherefore didst thou mention redelivery, as though sometimes he had been in thy hand?
I'll tell thee, Epernoun, as I am knight, not swerving from the truth in any point, and keeping faith accordingly reward his traitorous purpose, which is all I crave. This morning he was brought unto my tent, where being admitted, openly he showed how he had been disgraced and wronged by thee, for which he promised, if I would consent in this day's parley, he would murder thee. I, seeing his resolution, was persuaded, and promising, I needs must say, reward, though I do know when he had done the deed, how I was minded to have dealt with him. He thrust himself amongst thy followers, and what the peril is you see yourselves. But all this while I knew not who he was, more than a private discontented person, for if I had, the wretch had never lived to be an eyesore to his countrymen.
Oh, bloody practice. Soldiers, join with me, and we will tear him piecemeal with our hands.
Agreed. Let him not live a minute longer.
Pacify yourselves. Not one of you, on pain of our displeasure, once offer to touch a limb of him. Ingrateful Duke, wherein hath Epernoun deserved thy hate, that thou shouldst basely seek to murder him? But wherefore ask I that, when 'tis well known thou didst as wrongfully pursue the life of noble Lodowick, that true gentleman, that very map of honourable carriage? Amend, be sorry for thy fault, that though thy body perish by the law, thy wretched soul may have a place in heaven.
Tell me not, Epernoun, of heaven nor hell. I am a peer and regent of this realm, and thus you ought not to entreat a prince.
Thou regent of the realm? Speak that again. We will slit thy weasand
with our swords.
Soldiers, forbear.
Nay, Epernoun, show justice. Upon that caitiff, that perjured slave, that coward duke, or here I do protest, forever I will speak in thy dispraise, reporting to the world thou art no knight, nor worthy of the name of Epernoun.
My lord, I may not take upon myself to be his judge. He is a peer of France, and must have open trial by his peers. But when the king, my master, doth return, as shortly we are told he means to do, at his discretion be his punishment. Mean space, Medina, I can do no more, but see him safely kept in iron bands.
Now that as thou art knight, and for this day I do proclaim a solemn truce with thee, and not a sword of ours shall hurt the French.
As I am knight and liegeman to the king, he shall be kept in fetters till he come.
It is enough. Now back unto our tents.
And we into the city whence we came, and for our safety praise Jehovah's name.
And exit. Okay, I mean, this is a fascinating scene. It's in many ways. It's got the nice internal conflict. It's sort of missing the stage direction, saying when Mercury tries to creep through the soldiers, and the soldiers sort of grab him, and that's when we have that little minor confusion. Yeah, and then it sort of goes into this odd bidding war of, no, we want to kill him. No, we want to kill him. And sort of going, hey, just throw him to the Spanish because they seem to really keen. If you throw him to him, they'll leave. I mean, come on, this is a deal. And you don't like him anyway. And then they sort of agree, well, no, we'll put him in chains. There'll be a trial, and we won't fight each other for a bit. The king's coming home apparently. Well, he hasn't read the stage prefixes for the next few scenes because I'm not sure about the truth of that. Yeah, it's quite a good scene in many ways. It doesn't really match any of the scenes we've done today, but hey, why not? Let's just mush. Lois was speaking earlier about the genre of this play, and I was sort of going, I'm not sure there is one. Because the play leapfrogs left and right, all over the shop. It was much more pronounced yesterday. Today's been actually quite homogenous through most of the scenes, and then we're back to this plot. Lynn.
Yes. So I said I hope that this character, my brain just shut down. Sorry, Mercury. That he got his comeuppance. So we're gonna clap him in irons and wait until the king comes home. So it looks like maybe the political plot is resolving. Hernando says, you take care of this guy and I'll go back to Spain. Quits or even, let's call the whole thing off. So we were tying up the political plot pretty early, actually, about 2/3 of the way through, not even quite that. But we have to introduce so much new information to do that. We've never heard of the French general
Epernoun, no?
Epernoun before, and we have this and Mercury disguises himself as an ordinary disgruntled soldier and offering to be an assassin. It's like we have an entire play's worth of plot just in this one scene. So it's kind of dramaturgically odd.
Yes, it is, and it feels like it's from other plays as well. So we were saying in the chat, it's very like Battle of Alcazar, except Epernoun, he's in a chair, he's not dead, but he's clearly not well, or at least he's not in great fighting fettle, but he's still, the mind's working. He's a great general, you can tell. Rachael, then Cheynne, then Lois, then Eric.
I think this is because I was seeing Battle of Alcazar when we were when it was Hernando yesterday, his other scene. I think this is a parody of those scenes because the actual dialogue they're saying, even if they're saying it with all the gusto that you would deliver Battle of Alcazar, one of the guys is saying, "I have more fists than you've got hairs on your scalp," and the second soldier is saying, he's got a naked poignard in his fist, which I think is like a sort of masturbation joke that you could possibly, if you stretched it. There's some other parts where, it's like this guy is in a chair and he's talking about how old he is, and he's like, "I'll fight them." All these things are just like a flesh wound type talk.
Cheynne.
Kind of just going a little bit about what Rachael and Lynn are talking about. I think these last two scenes have so much going on. I think with just kind of studying plays and just like that time period, anytime I see the word pricks or poignard or any sort of mention of a sword, especially a naked poignard, it's pretty clear on what they're talking about and sort of the underlying jokes and the undertones. Something about that kind of stood out to me, though, is in the beginning of this scene, they talk about, I think Hernando talks about, if a king isn't good to us, why should we be good to a king? And then he immediately starts talking about his sword and how big it is, and hey, my sword's bigger than yours.
Lois.
Yeah, I thought that was actually a rather interesting speech too. That's absolutely heretical, this idea that the subjects don't know anything to the king if the king doesn't owe anything to his subjects. It's the same thing. He's just said that the father and son relationship, it's the same thing. If one doesn't respect the other, then it's mutual. And I imagine that's because he's the villain of the play. Otherwise, nobody could get away with that. There are a couple of things I wondered about. I mean, one was just that I thought it was really odd that Hernando cheerfully tells Epernoun, yeah, there was this guy, I didn't know who he was, but he said he would assassinate you. So I said, fine. But if I'd known who he was, I would have arrested him immediately. Oh, that makes it all right. Also the fact that Mercury is apparently the Duke of Anjou. I think, if you read The Massacre at Paris, I mean, the character called Anjoy or Anjou in that is particularly awful. I mean, he becomes Henry III of France. I don't know whether there are any connections there in people's minds. I mean, because as far as I can make out, this guy is pretty much fictitious.
Oh yeah, I mean, this is the thing is if you're trying to follow any threads into trying to narrow down an area, you have contradictory threads sending you in different directions in history. So it's a melee of stuff.
But I mean, Anjou had a particular relevance in England because the Duke of Anjou had, of course, been a suitor to Elizabeth and had come to England and so on.
Eric.
I was just wondering about the sort of, well, I'm assuming that these are Spanish/French, so it's kind of, they have seem to have conflated sort of various religious things into this scene as well, because they go, for our safety praise Jehovah's name, and I think there was also mention of like sort of not like Islamophobic stuff, but just something that made me go, okay, is that like a reference to Islam or something? I can't find the reference now, of course, but yeah, it's kind of, other religions are basically something else that we don't really know about, but I'm not sure.
Especially with the king off in Jerusalem at the time as well. Aliki.
No, I'm just going to say I don't think I agree with that. I think it's just Jehovah is just a way of saying thank God that scans. But yeah, I don't know. I feel like they're very much not doing the Muslim thing, other than the king is over in Jerusalem. And I suppose that the Spaniards are taking the role of the Turks in the Turkish plays that we've read.
And saying the because of their role, they can say the unsayable to a degree. I mean, they're coming out with some radical thought there. Lynn, were you waving?
I was just saying, and you couldn't, at a certain point, there was censorship legislation that you couldn't say the word God. So it might be scansion, it might just be that, it might just be, it's kind of a euphemism.
Yeah, God, it's 1606, I think, isn't it?
Yes, it's yet to come.
Yeah.
Never mind.
But, it doesn't mean people, weren't hairy about it sometimes. Cheynne.
I just had a quick question. Does this, I don't know if you guys are familiar with movies like things like Christmas Day and those movies that have like 15 or 17 different plot lines going and they kind of sometimes intertwine. Do people feel like this play is kind of certainly like that? Because every scene has been sort of involving a completely different set of people, and you got this people, one person running into this person who knows the other person from this scene but doesn't know. Do you guys know what I'm talking about? Is that the feeling that you get as well?
There's definitely something like, especially now that the plot lines have started to meet. I mean, this is the first, the previous scene 12 was the first time when the different plot strands actually started to interact with each other, and it feels like all these different threads are starting to weave together. Yeah, this play's got a lot of stuff going on. Absolutely. Elizabeth.
Yeah, I think we might call it the Love Actually effect. I think it was a Richard Curtis film. I do agree with you, Cheynne. I think that you've got a lot of different, almost episodic scenes, which are self-contained, and it's almost jarring when a character from one of the plots joins the characters from another.
Right, in theory we're supposed to read another scene, but it's incredibly short, so I'm just going to say we'll read it tomorrow. Apologies if anyone was terribly attached to their really short bits of dialogue. So we're going to go into final thoughts, because it is time for final thoughts. I know Cheynne has to nip off. I'd hate to throw you in early. So if you're not rushing away, I'll send someone in before you. Aliki, do you have any final thoughts about this play so far?
Well, I mean, as soon as I decided it was a comedy, we had another kind of gruesome battle scene. But
Yeah.
I think maybe that was meant to be comic. And I don't know, I'm confused. I'm still here. We'll see what happens tomorrow.
Yeah. Briony, any final thoughts?
Yeah, I'm still enjoying it and not really sure how it's all going to end. And there's problematic bits, but it hasn't been too problematic. I don't know. I'm still on the fence a bit.
Yeah, it's strange that I'm still sort of with this, even though we've discussed so many problems with it. It's just it's now feeling like this is a puzzle how do I solve it? What element do you perhaps contract, and what element do you expand, or to make it all sort of fit together in a neater way? But maybe we should embrace the madness and just let it flow. Elizabeth, any final thoughts?
Yeah, in terms of the early modern bingo, I haven't won yet. We've had a few things ticked off on the squares, but not everything on the board. I was just really thinking about staging this and I was really thinking about staging this at Shakespeare's Globe, Quack.
Yeah.
And just in that space, I thought it would really work. That because it's such a dynamic play, and it's Rachael has mentioned this several times, how it was moving at a really fast pace, and there's a lot of entrances and exits and lots of characters doing different things. I thought this would be one that would really kind of keep audiences engaged. Whether they can keep track of what's going on, that's another question, but whether they'd be focused and attentive, I think that's a given.
I mean, I was saying the other day that there aren't that, though there does seem to be a lot of plot threads going on. There are only really 3 sort of ones to keep in your mind, and the number of characters isn't that much. But there are some dots to join, especially about locations, about where people are at any given time, because the script doesn't help us there. It's not giving us those little indicators that we really want to use to hang our hat on. Valentina, any final thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, I was thinking that this play doesn't really go into depth anywhere. So it's so very light and surface facing. So I don't know if, I'm still with it. I don't know if I would enjoy watching it, or if it's one of those plays that you watch and you forget the next day. I don't know. I'm really interested in seeing how it ends. I'll have to read it by myself. But yeah, it's weird because I'm still with it, but there's something about it that I'm just a bit like, oh, it doesn't kind of lend anywhere. But thinking about where they are and where they're not, actually not knowing where Lodowick is in that scene makes it for a very nice surprise when you know that the girls are going to London and you just suddenly find out that he's not in London. So yeah.
So maybe we should keep that a surprise. No accent for the Sir Nicholas. Cheynne, any final thoughts from you in your first session?
Yeah, thanks for having me on this session. Definitely looking forward to doing more sessions. I think when you read plays in this period, I think, at least for me, what's very interesting is the comedy and the humor that's layered within the text, and that 400, 500, 600, 700 years later, we still find the same things pretty funny. I think this play is interesting because it plays with the audience, because, as Elizabeth mentioned, if you're understanding the play, and you kind of have to, it kind of took me a little bit to kind of catch where we were, because this is like our second day in, but if you are kind of following with what's going on, it is kind of stressful, right? It's a good stress, but there's that kind of feel to it, and anytime you can kind of emotionally grip the audience and captivate them, I think it just goes to a good production. So yeah, and as far as like stage play goes, it's probably definitely a high action play, a lot of people walking in and out, so it'd be interesting to see this staged.
Yeah, I mean, it's you're talking about, if it was a film you're going to see, and just sort of where do you pitch this? If we were thinking about, it's not quite a blockbuster, but it's not quite what sort of resources do you need for this? Well, you need an awful lot of tin hats and swords, but you also need, an inn or whatever establishment Yacob has, and people in the middle of nowhere, and a court. You need a kingly court. Yeah, it's throwing all sorts of different things up in the air. Lynn, any final thoughts?
Well, this is eccentric, isn't it? In the literal sense of being off center, not having a center. I hope Elizabeth is right, that maybe your audience wouldn't be able to follow, but they stay engaged. I hope that's true. I don't know. I kind of tend to lose patience when I can't follow the plot, but your acting, so much would depend on your actors and your staging. And I find in my theater going experience that if a production is just all in, like, we're having fun, come on, this is going to be fun. No, wait, you see what happens next? This is crazy. If your heart is in it, it's really hard as an audience member to resist that. If your cast's heart is really in it, if you see them having fun, it's almost impossible not to have fun too. So maybe that's the secret key. And along those lines, maybe this sort of weird mix of violence and high politics and romance. Maybe if we make our villains kind of more comic villains, or mustache twirly, Snidely Whiplash, exaggerate them a little to sort of signal that we don't want to take the high politics too seriously. It might help kind of smooth those abrupt edges, hide those seams a little bit. But I'm really curious, could it work? Because there are certainly a lot of really fun moments and some really enjoyable characters.
Yeah, I mean, also I was thinking, we've been I talked last time quite a lot about Laren for London. We brought up Massacre in Paris, because of some of those crossovers. But maybe we should be thinking more James IV, of going, it's a history play, but not really. Because it's not necessarily doing what we normally expect it to do. There's part of me thinking this is what happens when a pitch meeting goes wrong. It's like, so it's about this, and there's this, and you're looking at the person sitting there going, any fights? There'll be lots of fights, and there'll be battle scenes, and there'll be evil Spaniards come in with twirly moustaches, and it'll be great. Don't worry, we'll have it done a week Thursday. Definitely have it. Yeah, the script's already half written. That kind of manic energy. maybe not. Alan, any final thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, I think actually what's happening is we're overanalyzing it.
Yes.
I think the thing is that this would move at such a rapid pace that all of the screeching U-turns, discontinuities, uncertainties over who the hell is anywhere would just disappear, because by the time all of the short scenes, blink and you've missed it. So it would all go past, and the audience will come out of the theatre having seen effectively a romp with plenty of fighty action, a soppy romantic plot to keep the female part of the audience happy, and basically not much more.
Yes, it's not an infrequent accusation that sometimes maybe we're overthinking things. Eric, any final thoughts?
I'm just wondering, part of me is wondering about the doubling in this play, and the other part is just thinking, like, it is very fast and sort of fast-paced, but the actual thing today I got a bit lost with the plot and stuff, but the thing that's been sort of the imagery helping me, like, think of this play, basically, is like sort of like a French braid where you've got like 3 strands and you have to figure out how to like I can't braid it. You've got like 3 different strands of plot, and you have to keep like managing them until you get to the end. Otherwise, it won't make sense. And the only way we know whether it's going to be an interesting play or not, whatever, is the final session. So yeah.
Lois, any final thoughts?
Yeah, it's funny. There's in Sidney's Apology for Poetry, there's a passage where he goes on about all the stuff he hates in the popular theater. And I think he says something like, you get 3 ladies gathering flowers, so it must be a garden. And then some people come running on with swords. And so you think, oh, now it must be a battle. And you have no idea where you are, and it's all meaningless. And some child who is a child in the first scene grows up, and then they recognize by some token that he's really a prince. And I mean, Sidney was dead before this is written, as far as I can make out, but they still kept writing that kind of play because this is it. And it's got all these tropes: the suffering aristocrat with his noble wife and daughter, the young man who's obviously going to be discovered to be an aristocrat and totally worthy of the girl that he's marrying, and then this weird stuff with this war that seems to be going on, or this invasion, which I think is some kind of attempt to cash in on current feeling about the Spaniards, the Dutch, the French, everything. Yeah, I don't really know particularly what to make of it, but I have a feeling that it was the kind of thing that was actually quite popular, just because from moment to moment, it's entertaining, and the audience would probably have known a lot of these actors and liked them.
Rachael, any final thoughts?
Yeah, I liked it better today than yesterday. I've given up on to what Alan said, it's moved fast enough for me now that I get what it's trying to do, and that it's just about the jokes, and yeah, I'm kind of in agreement with that if you put this on stage and you just kept the jokes rolling, I think an audience wouldn't care about either the plot or any sort of plot holes in it.
Excellent. Right. Anyone want to throw anything additionally in before we close the session? I've gone around the room once. Cheynne, and then
I was just going to say, kind of going off of what everyone's been saying, this play is definitely one of those plays where maybe you get, all like the most famous actors of the time in London, throw them all in a movie, and they just make, it's kind of like Ocean's 11. Let George Clooney be George Clooney, let Brad be Brad. We'll just put a camera in front of them and action.
Lynn.
Yeah, I was when Lois was talking about the defensive poetry, but I don't like all these cliches, and audiences love those moldy old tales. They just do. Then they stand the test of time. The educated critics notwithstanding, we love our moldy old tales. We love our romances and our fairy tales. So
yeah. I mean, in that sense, the opening of the play promised us fairy tale romance type stuff. There is a missing child off, and then it sort of doesn't quite play into that straight away. And it's just maybe actually that's how we spin the rest of the play to give it a bit more of that gravity. But maybe we shouldn't. Maybe we should let the discontinuity be its continuity. Elizabeth.
Yeah, well, just to speak to the discontinuities of the play, I was kind of astonished by the fact that we started off with a dumb show, and that gave me a sense of a certain type of style that this play was going to be in. And ever since the beginning of the play, it's just kind of done away with that. It's like, no, okay, we've had a dumb show, tick it off. Okay, have we had a romantic scene between 2 lovers? No, we've got to put that one in, kind of thing. I got a sense that in terms of style, a lot of the plays that we have had dumb shows have them throughout. But in this one, it was just in the beginning.
Yeah, I mean, I do wonder. Maybe we're missing some dumb shows, because I think you're right. They would really benefit a few traveling abroad over the seas kind of bits, and he's traveling, and because there is a lot of movement. People are changing locations so much, and with a little chorus, maybe the choruses got detached along the way. It's not impossible. Rachael, and then I'm closing the session.
If you went with the what you just said of the like traveling montages. I would love it if, as they go over the ocean, a production just had somebody sprinting instead of taking an actual ship, just playing up more and more the ridiculousness of everything about this.
Excellent. Right. Well, until the final session, when we can finally sort of give an overview of the all of this, all that remains to thank all the wonderful readers for their wonderful reading. Thank you very much, everyone, and goodbye. The flesh pricks my holy self now and then.